All right, let's get a little bit of a fit check for you. We've got a pair of jeans, a t-shirt that I just changed into out of the sweater that I was wearing. I guess I kind of don't really like that sweater that much, but it's Tuesday, so it's like the day that I wear an outfit that I don't like that much. Is that a thing? As you can also see, oh my god, I don't look good at all. And it's fine. It's fine. I honestly figured, like, usually like I put on makeup to record some videos or something. But I'm kind of a disaster, but I feel like it's fitting. It's like kind of fitting for the topic that we're going to be discussing today. So I know that I haven't been doing videos a lot. I've honestly been working on this specific script for a little too long for the length that it actually is. I'll like open it, I'll write like one sentence. We're trying, we're here. I have so many ideas and so many passions, and I just can't do it. Which kind of leads us to the topic of today's video. Like, I know that a lot of people might find a topic like this somewhat relatable, which honestly kind of sucks. If we look at some 2024 numbers, more than 1 in 5 adults in the United States experience mental illness, which is about 23.4%. When you break that down by specific mental illness, most of this 23.4% are experiencing either anxiety disorders or major depressive disorder at about 19.1% and 15.5%, respectively. Controlling for age is even more telling, with a high percentage of these adults concentrated between the ages of 18 and 29. So I have 3 years until I get over it. As age increases, the numbers tend to get smaller. This is interesting because as prominence of mental health conditions increases, treatment availability for those mental health conditions decreases. Many people do not have access to treatment, and even if they do, they develop coping mechanisms that help them deal with their symptoms in the interim. These can be good or bad things. They can have good or bad long-term effects, but factually, one of these things is gaming, which I'm going to talk about a little today. This is going to be a shorter project focused on this very hyper-specific topic, but I have a lot of ideas ready to be scripted, and I just need the motivation. So if you like my stuff, please consider supporting me. I've got Twitter and Twitch and whatever. Subscribe and like and comment down below. Turn on notifications. If you really, really like my stuff, I also have Patreon where I post more guide and gameplay type of content for Pokemon Unite. So a bit of background here. I recently moved and I've been very functional. I go to work, I eat fine, I work out, I take care of myself, I take care of my pets, I take medications to manage anxiety, and I'm now getting back to therapy. So it took me a minute to understand that these common symptoms of depression and anxiety weren't actually the ones affecting me, since I was performing all my societal roles just fine. What made me realize I might not be doing well was 2 things. The first was fatigue. I've struggled with fatigue for a really long time. It started after I got diagnosed with diabetes in 2019. I've had various things contribute to it over time. Usually I go to the doctor, they like figure out something that's wrong with me. I get some sort of medication, or they tell me to go to bed earlier or something, and then I come back later. First, it was hypothyroidism, which I have only slightly. So I take very low dose levothyroxine for it. But after that, it was low vitamin D. And then after that, they were like, why don't you try SSRIs to help with the fatigue? Because sometimes that helps. And I was like, okay. And then usually after some sort of intervention, I feel like it might be getting better for a little bit, but then I end up back to feeling so fatigued that all I do is really go to work and come home, and it's kept me from being able to stream consistently or working on videos or being social or doing anything really besides the things that I absolutely have to do. I just feel too exhausted to come home, open up my computer, and have to be on for a few hours. The second thing, and the thing that's actually related to the content of this video, is I play a lot of video games. And now that Legends EA is out, I'm playing a lot of that. I'm still also playing a lot of Pokemon Unite, but I barely even stream. I just kind of log on and I play the game and I lay down at the same time, and I don't even really attempt to make any content about it. I get frustrated with the game, especially Unite, but it doesn't matter to me as much as just having something to do. So I found myself coming home from work, laying down, logging on, ignoring everyone, and just playing the game. And it wasn't like I was so excited to play Unite or that I just love the game so much or anything. It's been more like I'm not sure what else to do. And unfortunately, I think this might be a relatable experience. When you're interested in something to a degree, sometimes it can develop into a coping mechanism that we latch onto without realizing. Somewhere along the way, my brain recognized that Pokemon Unite is a good way for me to relieve symptoms of anxiety and depression, and so I automatically go toward that activity without even really thinking about it. I'm not telling you personal information about my experience, like to rant or try to get sympathy from you or anything. I'm attempting to express an issue that I feel like is relevant to a lot of gamers. And depression is this weird thing. It can just kind of get you before you even realize what's happening. And it comes with a lot of negative or even cyclical thoughts, and gaming can let a person escape from those things. For about a year, maybe even more than a year, I've had this like obsessive thought about being a bad person and, you know, I'm secretly evil. No one really cares about me. Like that type of obsessive cyclical thought. And no matter what it is, any situation or any problem that I have, like, you know, something happened with my students, or I didn't get to work on time, or I have a problem with a friend, I always come back to this pattern of cyclical thinking of just like, you're evil, you're just manipulating everyone in your life, like back to that pattern over and over again. When you end up in patterns of thinking and overwhelming your brain with all these thoughts and different connections, sometimes just throwing on a video in the background while also playing a game that requires your brain to have pretty intense activity, it's a little bit helpful. Because at least if I'm actually evil, then when I say every player in solo queue is bad except me, then like at least you agree. There are a lot of things out there that tell us what's good to do and what's bad to do with depression or anxiety or any other mental health condition that you may have. But what works for some people doesn't always work for everyone. And the context of what works for some people also doesn't always work for everyone. So I'm going to focus on how gaming can be beneficial for mental health and what we know about its contributions, as well as how gaming might not be good for mental health and can actually harm your progress. So let's talk about first how gaming can be a good thing for mental health. There's a lot of evidence that commercial video games, which are video games developed for personal use and not for clinical reasons, can be good for socialization, cognition, which means like using your brain effectively, emotional regulation, and mental health. There was a literature review paper that came out in 2021 on my birthday, funnily enough, and this paper examined the mental health effects of various categories of games, including general commercial video games, strategy games, first-person shooters, RPGs, simulation games, and action games. Since I mainly focus on Pokemon Unite, this is considered a MOBA, which falls under a strategy game. Mainline Pokemon games tend to fall under RPGs, so I kind of focused a little bit in on this as well. Out of the categories discussed in this literature review, there is evidence to show that RPG and strategy games have positive mental health outcomes associated with pro-social behaviors, including decreased loneliness, cognition, goal achievement, mood repair, like making yourself feel better if you're in a negative mood, emotional regulation, and general anxiety. Since depression causes low mood and can cause cognitive difficulty, using stimuli or distractions that contribute to cognitive strengthening can be beneficial for relieving the symptoms of depression. Basically, if you're playing Unite or other strategy games, you tend to have to think a lot about the character that you want to pick, the build you'll use on it, what path you're going to choose. And if you don't do any of that and just pick the same thing every time, you still have to actively make decisions for when to prioritize objectives, when to rotate, when to use your moves, and all that stuff. Even if you're making the wrong decisions about that, you're still using parts of your brain that are often more difficult to use for individuals with depression. In terms of the multiplayer aspect, playing games with other people often limits feelings of isolation, especially when people are collaborating with each other while playing. Self-isolation is a common symptom of depression, so even queuing up with a friend can help mitigate that. I've talked about this a lot before, but there's also an aspect of psychological identity building associated with gaming, especially RPG gaming, where you build a character or play as a character that individuals tend to experience the world through, which creates immersion. Feeling immersed in a different world or game experience can promote feelings of belonging, which once again can help mitigate feelings of depression. And this is a really interesting element. Playing as a character can often unintentionally lead people to analyze the character's patterns of decision making and question their own ways of making decisions. So, for example, if you're playing Pokemon and you're walking around with your character, you're talking to other characters and you're learning their motivations and they're stating their goals and what they want to do. And your character then develops motivations and goals for how to complete the game. And you may then also develop these positive goals. In Pokemon, everything is very flowery and positive, so your goals are often shaped to be like saving the city or saving the Pokemon or becoming someone respectable that other trainers look up to. And these types of things have literally been shown to improve negative patterns of thinking as users engage with it, which is so cool. It's doing something similar to what cognitive behavioral therapy does, literally working on altering your mindset to train yourself out of the depressive thoughts. Positive mood has also been shown to persist after a gaming session is over, especially with RPG games. I do not imagine that we always see the same thing with Unite, but I can totally see that being true for many of the traditional Pokemon games. I feel like, honestly, the last thing I feel after getting off of Pokemon Unite is reinvigorated. In terms of anxiety, there have been a few studies that have investigated how gaming can help mitigate some of these symptoms, including difficulty concentrating, worry, fear, potentially even separation anxiety. In one study, 2 groups of people were treated with SSRIs, which are selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, often used to treat anxiety and depression disorders. If you heard of medications like Lexapro or Zoloft, those are examples of SSRIs. Basically, one group of people was only given medication with no other intervention, and the second group was given medication and then also played Plants vs. Zombies 4 times a week for about 45 minutes, and they showed that the gaming group had fewer anxiety symptoms than the medication-only group. It just goes to show that medication is definitely helpful for many individuals, but some form of additional intervention and active effort to improve is also needed. And it turns out that intervention can be specific types of games, especially those that encourage decision-making, cognitive function, and social awareness. There was also some evidence to suggest that during the quarantine back in 2020, gaming was very helpful for managing some of the anxiety that came with the pandemic. So in general, gaming can be pretty good for you if you suffer with symptoms of anxiety and depression. It can help suppress some of the symptoms and improve cognitive ability, especially in a time where treatment for mental health disabilities is difficult to come by. But it also should be noted that gaming isn't a replacement for therapy. But if used correctly, it can be a good, potentially healthy coping mechanism. However, like any coping mechanism or treatment pattern, gaming has its notable downsides. A key word that I mentioned a couple of times earlier throughout this video is escapism. The act of using a coping mechanism to escape from your problems for a time. Connecting gaming with escapism basically means that gaming is a mechanism that pulls someone out from real life into a fake world, which in a beneficial way can lead to connecting elements of the game with the life you want to have and then making that effort in real life, but in a harmful way can lead to an obsession with the feeling of escaping and refusing to make the connections to real life. Instead of using it as a helpful coping mechanism, gaming can become more of an addiction, leading to behaviors similar to individuals that experience other forms of addiction, such as substance abuse. When I was talking about the background earlier, that was kind of what I was getting at. I find that lately I'm not using gaming as a productive way to relieve symptoms of anxiety and work on myself or my feelings of isolation or my coping mechanisms. I'm using it more as that escape. Just something that passes the time and something I look forward to doing to completely disconnect. When I'm going about my normal day, I'm just thinking about the next time I get to go home and play. I'm dissociating from life or passing up on opportunities to engage with others or make connections or be productive because I'm completely fine with ruining every relationship I have if it means I get to play my little game and speak 0 words to another human being. While it can be good if you're actually putting in the effort to improve negative mental health symptoms, if you're not, then gaming can take over your life and actually not improve a single thing. When not done with caution, gaming as escapism can be correlated to negative mental states like social anxiety and loneliness. In games like Unite, this has been found to actually increase because multiplayer games lead to people interacting with other familiar people. Inversely, participating in multiplayer games with people from your own social circle may mitigate this and actually be beneficial. So basically, solo queue is bad for your mental health, but I think we already knew that. The escapist mentality is also the strongest predictor for a psychological condition known as internet gaming disorder, which has been acknowledged in the American DSM-5 for less than 10 years. So basically, this is a pretty new thing. This disorder has actually been treated similar to various addiction disorders by psychological professionals. To be diagnosed with this disorder, you have to be experiencing 5 or more of the following symptoms: preoccupation with gaming, withdrawal symptoms when gaming is taken away or not possible, tolerance, the need to spend more time gaming to satisfy the urge, inability to reduce playing or unsuccessful attempts to quit gaming, giving up other activities, loss of interest in previously enjoyed activities due to gaming, continuing to game despite problems, deceiving family members or others about the amount of time spent on gaming, the use of gaming to relieve negative moods such as guilt or hopelessness, risk having jeopardized or lost a job or relationship due to gaming. Obviously, these are much more serious than the casual, sometimes I escape from life using gaming as a coping mechanism. But it's still very interesting that recent research shows the best predictor of development of internet gaming disorder is this escapist behavior. With things like this, it's really important that you take a lot of time to self-reflect. Mental health is indeed mental. It's happening in your own brain and involves chemical imbalances that can be addressed and even repaired with a lot of reflection and effort into understanding yourself and tackling those negative things. Since gaming is still fairly new in mainstream society and often enjoyed by younger generations, many older people tend not to take its effects seriously, or at least in my opinion, and they project either 100% good or 100% evil onto it, when, just like anything psychological, there's always a gray area. There's been a sort of theme for the past few years that when violent behavior happens in real life and the person that committed the violent behavior played violent video games, and then that must mean that the gaming encouraged that person to be violent. Gamers who enjoy violent video games or just gaming in general have met this perception with equal force opposing it, stating that that's absolutely not true that gaming has this type of effect. But in reality, there are negatives to it, and individuals with mental health disorders like depression, anxiety, or even internet gaming disorder may very well be affected by the elements of gaming that desensitize them from their real lives. It's important that research continues to address things like this so that we can make gaming understood as a normal, everyday part of society. To put this into perspective, let's take another common addiction as an example. The symptoms of something like internet gaming disorder are very similar to the symptoms of alcohol addiction. Alcohol is viewed as a normal part of society where most accept that few people consume alcohol, where most people accept that very few people who regularly consume alcohol are addicted to it. There are many benefits to alcohol consumption, and it's also something people enjoy. But we have also seen that sometimes people who regularly consume alcohol are violent, participate in dangerous or reckless activities, or become dependent on the escapism piece of alcohol consumption. Gaming manifests very similarly, and it's important to remember that something so highly addictive should be consumed in moderation and with special attention to how it affects your mental and physical state. I've been working on the script for a couple weeks because I just cannot sit down and focus on content. Like, turning on the camera for so long has just seemed like such a chore. I'm tired. It's tough to like keep up the motivation for long enough to form even one cohesive thought. So that's kind of what made me want to explore this topic in the first place and get me motivated to make something that brings this type of content or research to the forefront. Remember, tackling your own mental health comes with a lot of self-reflection, understanding, and effort, and happens at one's own pace. Be supportive of your friends, talk to others about your experiences, and always be willing to learn from the experiences of others. I love you guys. I hope you enjoyed this one. I am looking forward to any conversations that may come out of something like this. And then I will see you all next time. Bye!